Hey, welcome back. Welcome back to the Scorpio channel. My name is Laura. If you're new to my channel, I'm going to do a general message for Scorpio. Know that energy is fluid. Roles could be reversed. Just interpret the message as best resonates with you. Also know on this channel, I like to dive deep within the reading. So I do look at everything, but we take time to look at the spiritual blocks, the shadows, to see how they play it as karmic themes, help you understand why everything's playing out the way that it is, right? We're mirrors of who and what comes into our life. A lot of times we're like, okay, I'm not that person. I'm not mean. I'm not malicious. I don't deliberately go out of my way to trigger people, get underneath people's skin. I don't do that. Well, again, the universe brings us what we need. So when someone has that power to emotionally throw us out of balance, there's always a karmic lesson, right? So once we learn that lesson, that person doesn't get the same reaction. See, there's many different realities that play out at one time. What you choose to do, again, your reaction is always going to be the karma. So when you want to shape shift your reality, you have to do something different. All right. Anything of any importance or relevance to the channel, it's in the description box. Lately, I've been starting off with just about your energy, like what you need to do to learn about for your energy, whether it's for the it's never for a day. People say, oh, for the day, but it's usually like you're dealing with a karmic theme, and the karmic theme comes as a test. So again, there's things that you need to look out for, things, energies that you can integrate into your life to create balance. So that we look at your energy first, and then we look and see what's going on in your connection. Sorry, my allergies are bothering me. Something fierce. And I have no idea why. And the weather, it gets hot, it gets cold, it gets so cold that I'm not used to it. And it's like I don't like the cold at all. And we've been like, I think 3 or 4 weeks in on just really cold weather, which is not a long time, but for Florida, it's a long time. I actually ordered a heater online for my kitchen. I said, I can't take it. So I just caved. All right. Took an allergy pill. That's why I was a little late. So hopefully it'll settle in. Allergies are a sign of root chakra imbalance. Did you know that? Yes, it's true. All right. And I say that because the first chakra is all about support, your physical body, and the immune system. So when the immune system is over responsive, due to stress, a lot of times, you'll notice allergies act up more. All right, let's see. One more deck. There's no rhyme or reason. I just got tired of just looking about your relationship. Because really, if there's a spiritual block, you're not just going to see it within the relationship. You're going to see it within your life. You're going to see how that theme continues to play out within your life. And that's the first sign to healing. Okay, that's way too many. Like if it was like even 5, but that was like half the deck. All right, let's pull. We're going to pull 3. 1, 2, and 1 more makes 3. Okay. So let's look and see what they are. Okay, merciless forgiveness. Don't like it already. And it's because resentment. So when we're angry and when we're resentful, like you already know, it's like a karmic relationship. And it could be first a mother and a father. It could be a mother and a daughter, rather, or a mother and a son, or a father and a son. Doesn't matter the relationship. But usually that energy, like when you're born into like a generational curse, that means you're born into vows, and vows are created due to really betrayal and like, you know, because resentment comes from that. Resentment comes from the fact that at one time there was love, or there should have been love, and that the person didn't show up for you, didn't treat you right again. And in that, it's like you might have forgiven them and taken them back, then they did it again. And it's always the same karmic theme. And that karmic theme is usually like you're with someone that makes you feel undervalued, makes you feel like there's something wrong with you, makes you feel like you're not worthy of it. And so, again, like we say, merciless forgiveness, because you wouldn't care if it was the person down the block. It's, of course, someone that obviously should be, you know, giving you love. So the lesson is that. And so, relationship issues. Now, Spirit says, be willing to look in the proverbial mirror regularly and embrace the light and the dark. So obviously, this is a person that is coming into your life, and they are deliberately trying to show you a mirror of what needs to be healed. And so you have to ask yourself certain questions, but you would do that in a sacred space, taking time out, Spirit says, to meditate on it, because there's deep healing that needs to be done. Whenever we see merciless forgiveness, it's a big one. And the reason why is because without it, you can't manifest anything. It's like when you're holding on to, like, I'm pissed off, fuck you, you know, like that energy. It's like it's like you're closed down. Your heart is shut. Spirit says that's not the energy that I am. That's not the energy of the universe. The universe is unconditional love. There is no separation between you and your creator, you and the universe. However, the spiritual blockages of resentment. So where Spirit's saying, like, you need to take time out. Part of it is going to be intuitive, you know, and part of this is, you know, when you have a karmic, the lesson really is, believe it or not, to least surrender. And that is allowing the person their own path is a powerful way of showing unconditional love, meaning be like you do you, but you don't have to affect my life. The issue of this person that, you know, they were supposed to show up. They were supposed to do a lot of things, but they didn't come through. And then you're resentful. You know, it's not that you're mad and that's the problem. The issue is that they're holding on to resentment, when really it's like what you do is let the person, if they wanted their freedom at the time, is the vibe that I'm getting. I don't know, we're going to pull cards, but intuitively I'm getting that. Like they act like they just didn't want a commitment. So in that, you give the person what they want. Just because if they change their mind doesn't mean that you have to allow it. But we're going to see, because Spirit's saying, like, you know, part of it is acceptance. You know, like when things like it shouldn't be, just like when someone betrays you and you're a child, and if it's a parent, you shouldn't have done that. Just like a soulmate, you shouldn't have done that, Spirit's saying. So it's the unrealistic expectation that people are going to be perfect, where Spirit says, don't underestimate your ability to solve like any problem. It's like you have to not be triggered, because the resentment is the fact that there's still emotional connection. Otherwise, you wouldn't be resentful. You'd say, I don't care. You'd say, but you might say, no, I'm pissed off, because you wouldn't care. Trust me, because it takes too much energy. The fact that there's love there, otherwise there wouldn't be, you know, and so the lesson needs to be learned is what Spirit says. But first, let's see what what this person thinks about you, because again, we were transmuting this energy, by the way, which is anxiety and fear, which is the energy when it is the energy of you know, merciless forgiveness, when we need merciless forgiveness. And that fear could be, I'm never going to receive love after you did what you did to me. Now I feel like I can't receive love. There's, you know, collective reading. So there's a lot of different narratives to it, but it's usually it's like you see that yourself has broken, or that person made you feel that way, and now you just can't see like the situation differently, even though there's still an emotional connection. That's why they say there's a fine line between love and hate. And so that's what happens when you don't forgive over time. The resentment grows to that, and it's not really healthy. The underlying energy is anxiety, and then what happens is that people like react. So being connected to a person that's not going to show you anything, they're expecting you to react. And so like you might have not reacted, which is kind of, again, and now it doesn't mean that it didn't piss you off. I feel like you did react, you just didn't show this person that you reacted, like, because you're still pissed off about it. There's still a connection, and there wouldn't be a karmic cord if there wasn't an emotion, because you can't say, well, I don't have an emotional connection, I feel that person. No, it's two-way. It's just you're pissed off. You might not want to be with that person, but you're like, how fucking dare you? Like that energy, where spirit says it's resentment. Remember, it's like, and forgiveness always is the underlying spiritual thing, because again, of how it made you feel, how that person, now just because a person does that doesn't mean that that's really the way that they feel. They have really a lot of feelings for you, but do that. That's what a psychological reversal is. Now, I'm not saying that you should be with someone that gets in their own way and sabotages the connection just because they have spiritual blockages. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that you can start by healing, by seeing, like, does this person deliberately do what they do, and why do they do what they do? It doesn't make sense. If there's supposed to be a connection, why would they do what they do? Or are they just trying to get over at this point? Like, where are they within the relationship? So I always like to look at the hidden truths, because it's a good place to start. Like, oh, I don't know, how does the person feel about you? Like, what's the underlying energy with them? What do they think about? And Spirit says, I'm starting to understand our connection. I feel like, when you have a spiritual connection and you're not really a romantic, and you're not really someone that is good with being vulnerable, and really like showing that a real relationship, because spiritual relationships are real. It's not surface. It's like you can't, it's like this person maybe used to be going into like a bar and meeting someone and picking them up, or like meeting someone through being out, and people are, everyone's full of shit. They're like, hey, I'm really into you, and they go home and they show pictures to each other, and tell each other how much they love each other, but everyone's full of shit. Everyone's just kind of like getting off on each other, not to be vulgar, but it's like, it's so surface, and because it's full of lies. And so, I feel like this person might have approached you like that too, like, and not because that's who you are, but because, hey, that's who's out there. And then here's this real relationship that, this person was not there, first of all, didn't understand it, but then also didn't understand why there was an emotional connection to it, when this person doesn't have emotional connections, especially when they're not getting anything, because like I said, everyone's full of shit. They're, oh yeah, I love you. Let's show each other like dirty pictures of each other and pretend that we're in love. You know what I mean? Like, we're running off to Tahiti tomorrow. Yeah, I always wanted to be with someone that had 12 kids and lives in an apartment. You know what I mean? Like, whatever they need to tell the other person, but it means to an end. So, yeah, I need to tell them that, so that they give me a dirty picture, or tell me how great I am, or how sexy I am, or how we can talk dirty to each other. Like, it's surface. It's not a real thing. It's here for a good time, not a long time. So to have a deep connection for someone that's like this, that it fucked them up. Because they're like, didn't make sense. But a spiritual relationship is not going to make sense. It's where the divine comes in and says, you know what energy I believe that you need? This type of energy. So your ass is in the gutter. Like that's what I believe. And this person might have said, I never knew of any other type of connection, like that before. The only type of people that I know are shady people. My ex-wife was shady. My ex-husband was shady. Like this person was shady. They were different with me, but then they wound up being shady after all. You know what I mean? They get perceptions. I love you unconditionally. And that's what a spiritual connection is. Doesn't mean that this person likes that. It's like understanding you don't like it either because you're like, I don't like this energy. I wish, and God says that's why resentment's there because there's actually love unconditionally. Like, I love you unconditionally. Like, where you're like, well, you love me unconditionally, but that's the way it fucking looks. It's like, I don't like the way that it looks. You make me feel not seen. You make me feel not good enough. You make me feel not worthy. And that's the way that it looks, you know? Where again this person is like what they're learning is that love is like you can't control it. I mean, love is patient, love is kind, love is all the things that we a lot of times need to heal and integrate within ourselves. That it's these energies that make us separate. So you might have grown up in a family that there needs to be forgiveness. Usually that's what it is. And it's like, I don't have a good relationship with my mother. I don't have a good relationship with my father. My father was avoidant. This one was this. And God says, yes, but you love them unconditionally. Yeah, but they didn't show up. I'm pissed off, and God says, forgiveness. Otherwise, you're going to get that person. And you're going to get them in a relationship. And you're going to be like, I sound like my fucking mother, and it's like, because you're with your father, you know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not going to pick that person. And it's like, and God says, oh, believe me, I'm going to make sure you pick elements of that person because you associate love with it, with that energy, because that was your first attachment, whether you like it or not. And you can't change the person, you change you. The issue is, I'm not going to forgive. You're the one that's going to change, motherfucker. And God says, that's not love. That's condition, but it's not supposed to look like that. And God says, well, you don't give the person. But unconditional love is still unconditional love. You might not do anything, but it's not for you to hold on to resentment. You and I were just too young, and that for some, and others, it was like too new out of a relationship. It was too soon, and it was just excuse. They weren't ready for that type of a relationship. Like I said, they were in a mode of here for a good time, not a long time. I've never had a relationship like this before. I never cared. It's usually full of shit. And I don't have that emotional connection. I have a lust connection, and that lasts for about 2 to 4 months, maybe tops, and maybe 6 months if I'm really trying because I put the effort in, but not like it's usually a week, and I have to go through a lot of people, and it's how much that person's willing to put up with. That's that person's energy, which again, imbalanced. Where spirit says, let me bring in somebody that has good energy. So you're like, if I have good energy, why would you be hooking me up with this person? And God says, well, you need energy that they bring to the table. Shady energy. I need shady energy. Spirit says, you might again need to have a little bit more of a backbone. And be more decisive and be more again, don't try and get over, know my worth. This is what I want. Where you're like, I don't want to go into relationships to tell them. And God says, that's your problem. You weren't allowed to, ask for what you needed growing up. And now we're going to give you a person that you're going to have to ask for what you need. Otherwise, you're going to feel the same energy that you grew up with, not because this person's just dumb. It's again, they're not on a high vibration, God says. How do you think they're going to get on a high vibration? You think it magically happens, God says? No, I have to bring people. And if you like this person, yeah, you feel the connection. Okay, I don't show you all that in the beginning. You like this person? Oh, yeah, okay. This it's like buying a used car. You like the car? Yeah, it's great. And then you drive it for 2 weeks, and then see, oh, the light doesn't go off. Oh, it's got this weird, like, clunking noise every time I turn like the corner. There's something fucked up with it that you're like, what is this? Of course it would be like, and Spirit says, that's like the relationship. It's like, well, what the hell is this? And God says, again, that's your person that you signed up for. You're like, oh, wait a minute, you didn't show me all this. That you showed me like an illusion. And God says, no, well, like, you saw what you looked for. I didn't hide anything, but you liked what was there and you ran with it, and I just didn't stop you. Spirit says, because otherwise you wouldn't learn. I'm not stupid. You think you don't want healing, doesn't feel good, where this person wishes that they could share their good news with you. They're changing. They're making changes in their life. So, there's a sense of, I have feelings for you. I realize that, this is a special connection. Let's pull 3 more. I run away to avoid facing my problems. Yeah, that's more of this person's energy. I hate to say it, if they're like a low vibe. And so Spirit says, well, like you said, how do you think people raise their vibration? They only do it if they love. That's the only way, and they love unconditionally. That's the only way that people change. It doesn't mean, it means that they want to. See, they have got to want to, but usually it's something that comes into a person's life, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a child, whether it's something that makes that person say, no, I want more. You know what? I want more. I don't really want like whatever that is. That was fun for where I was. But when I really think about it, we're all a bunch of stupid people wasting time, running around lying to each other and getting off. We're a bunch of perverts, really, at the end of the day, which shouldn't I be like giving my time towards something a little bit more creative? You know what I mean? A little bit more whatever, instead of these repetitive cycles. This person wasn't going to volunteer to battle their inner demons. They're doing that now. It doesn't mean that they're healed automatically, like, oh, all of a sudden there's no vibe they became. No. It's because it's like, I love you unconditionally. You're not making it easy for me. But this person thought about it. Believe me, they thought about it enough to try to talk themselves out of this connection. If they actually like you and are going to give you time, believe me, they thought about it. They thought about it to the point that, they really tried to make a case not to, but that's a person that's in a place of fear. That, again, where childhood wounds are what influence this person, and that's the inner demons, of that they can't really have love, that, that they're not good enough, that they're not worthy, that they're not, all these energies that really are not this person, but because they become those experiences, because that's what happens when, the dust part of self identifies with itself. We identify with our experiences, not really who we are, that we're, hey, well, there's no separation between me and my creator. I make mistakes, but I can transcend the limitations of my mind. I can create my heaven on earth. I'm going to make mistakes along the way. I can accept that. Where this person is stuck in like a place of, a contemplative regret because they get which is right now, because it's like you're not talking to them. It's like they're facing their inner demons. They're not in a good space. It's not easy to heal, because this person has to confront their shadows. Otherwise they're so busy wearing a mask. Like I said, having those weird type of like surface relationships with people on Facebook, people on Instagram, people like on the internet, that it's like fantasy time. It's like it's a distortion. It's a second chakra imbalance. But understand the mask. And then so when you finally experience something different that's real, it's like whether you want to or not, it's like, well, damn, because it feels like a destined connection, so to the point that this person might have felt that they didn't have to put in that much work. But because here it is, we know that they don't really put in that much work, and we see the type of work that they do put in. So, it's almost like they did not have the tools, but it was mainly because they were, stunting themselves due to, you know, childhood wounds. So eventually they have to heal, but understand it's a telepathic bond, ESP through the heart and mind. Well, I don't want to think about it, but I keep thinking about it, and that's the cord that they feel, but they feel that cord as like love, where I feel like you're like, oh no, I have resentment towards you for how you treated me. You're delusional for you to actually think that this is actually going to work. Like where God's saying it's again, this could be a soulmate connection where it's about forgiveness, but where you could be like, no, I'm not putting up with this person's shit. God says, I don't care whether you're going to be with this person or not. The lesson is already learned because this person's changing. If they lose you, hey, they're going to learn the lesson even more so. It's again, God says, all I care is whether you evolve back to your original energy of unconditional love. It's not you, it'll be somebody else that comes into this person's life and has to play out whatever karmic themes. But understand, because this person has emotionally changed and where had their feelings towards you, where it's like, oh wow, I could actually have this type of a connection. It's like that's healing already, where this person is going to strive to have that type of connection. Does that mean that they know what that entails? No. They'll try to emulate it. And then depending on you or whoever shows up in this person's life. So remember, if you're going to let this person just come in, they're going to, do what they have to get in, and that's work a lot. And then they probably won't give that much effort because, hey, their heart's closed. However, if they come back when you're resentful and you really don't want to be with them, well, then they're going to have to work really hard to win you over. And you might be like, fuck you. The answer is still no. But God says, oh, but they're going to try. And so in the trying, it opens up their heart, because the ego, this person's still wounded enough that their ego is not going to like the fact that you walked away. So God says, I wouldn't either way, because I can set up the entire scenario that you're both are going to heal from the situation, even if it doesn't play out where you guys are together, because there is unconditional love. And so, but there's also that pain that is brought up from this person's inner child wound. And I'm sure your inner child wound, Spirit says, yes, your inner child wound as well, which I don't think we pulled like enough for that, but we're going to pull more. I'm working up the courage to contact you. So again, this person still has feelings. Even if they are toxic, Spirit says, like that's the thing. It says this person is working up the courage to contact you, and they're going to make it like a little bit like it's your fault. And I say that because Spirit says he's going to, he or she is going to say, I ran away because I felt like I couldn't live up to your needs and your expectations of me. So it kind of, again, like you were putting too much pressure, again, which you aren't putting too much pressure. This person, again, was not in the vibe that, this connection deserved. And so, but they're going to say, because they're still not on the, a high vibration, remember. So they need to take full responsibility. You don't have to act however for them to be respectful and nice and have given you time. It's like they had too many unhealthy habits and behaviorisms, and that's what Spirit says you need to look out for. Because it's not that this person doesn't have feelings, but when there's inner child wounds that aren't healed over time, that energy, like that fragmentation, really does attract attachments. And those attachments will play out as unhealthy, like behaviorism, right? Where the person doesn't want to have to utilize them to navigate their life, but they become so dependent on them. So again, their inner demons are that. It's like to be with you requires them to not be in that energy, to not be in player energy, to not be in a low vibration energy, to release attachments, to be whole. And so again, they're fighting themselves. That's what spiritual warfare is. But, it's like Spirit says, everyone has to go through it, but I'm going to bring things to people to help them. So the incentive would be, oh, I have this deep spiritual connection with this person where I feel like the connection is destined. There's so much love, there's so much passion, there's so much, but they fought it. So it's like the energy has turned, and that's the thing. But this person, is now knows all that too, and it triggers their insecurities. This person normally, like I said, is emotionally unavailable. And now, the thing is, because this is affecting them emotionally, they don't really know how to deal with it. It's affecting them mentally. They feel like you're taking up space in their head, where this is a connection that, there's unconditional love. It's where the divine has gotten involved and it's chosen this connection for both of you to heal. Like said, you can be with this person. This person wants to come back, but it's like, they didn't mean what they said. I feel like they acted like they didn't care. I feel like you said something to them, and what they did was they downplayed the connection. Like, oh, you can't tell me what to do. Oh, we don't have it. It's not serious. All right. But that's because you caught them off guard. And so they reacted. And so Spirit says it's about coming to a place of surrender. To get spiritually equilibrium, it's like you come to a place of surrender and not want to control. This person will eventually reach out to you, I feel like. But that doesn't mean roll out the red carpet to this person. And it could also mean don't cut them off at the knees. Maybe be friendly, be nice, but, understand that they're not coming from your level of consciousness, and practice really forgiveness, because it's like, the betrayal, it's like this person is just not on your vibration. So it's not a thing of love. It's like this person, in their mind, they think it's love. There is a spiritual connection, but it's a past life karmic connection. And this person, like you said, I feel like it's never had this type of relationship, and they're normally emotionally unavailable. They have to stop with the unhealthy habits and attachments. Otherwise, it's always going to be toxic. And so, again, that's the issue. The issue is not love. And that's why you'll always probably have a connection to this person, but, if we know that they're not healthy for us, we have to choose ourselves. It's about self-love. Now let's see by looking at the inner child wounds. And then we'll look at a few more of your wounds and then how to integrate the spiritual lesson. So we have to understand, why would spirit bring this person into our life? What are we supposed to learn from this? I mean, because it sucks when the person really feels like, oh, this is my person, this is my person. And then it's like that. And spirit says, well, remember, we already pulled, the reaction abuse and the what was it? And the anxiety. Was there any other? No, I don't think so. Was there any other? Usually I didn't want to pull that many of the wounds in the beginning. No, that's it. Okay. And so we'll put them and we'll pull. Got to pull more wounds. We'll pull like 4 more. It makes 6 and 6. So, right. So spirit's saying, yeah, look, disassociation, emotional, because I always associate physical touch with emotional touch, feeling loved, feeling secure, again, abandonment. So I feel like psychologically, but really emotionally, like abandoned, like maybe no time and attention. So you could have had parents that really did love you. They just worked all the time. And, when it came to like you being vulnerable, they just were like, oh, toughen up. Or like you didn't feel like they could really help you or be there for you because they told you to be strong, where emotionally you needed like a little bit more like reassurance. And so again, it's not a blame game, but we have to understand, where did the wound come from? Why do I feel like I attract certain attachment styles, which emotionally we saw this person is like not available. So emotionally they're going to be an avoidant. Why do you always attract that? Well, partially it's because there was no time and attention where you felt abandoned. So maybe the only time that you got to feel like you were really seen was when you were good, and when you did the things that brought good attention to the family. Again, where spirit's saying, look at this, where it's like a fear of being perceived wrong, and also vulnerability of like blockage of vulnerability, like not being able to like again feel safe in expressing who you are and like what your needs are, because your parent could be like, oh, that's just silly, just like you're caught up in like something that's not important, where it could have been something that was important for you. Nevertheless, it created anger and resentment, and that's how this reading started. Like where it was like there was the underlying energy where you're like, well, I'm not into this. And now, of course, this person wants to come back into my life now. Of course they do. Like where spirit's like, well, it's divine timing. But it's not divine timing because you feel like it's the perfect time. Is the divine timing for your healing, because that's really the only thing that really the universe cares, that you revert back to your energy of unconditional love. So this person too, where again, by how much they do for you is the realization that, oh, I really like this person. Where understand, unless they move mountains, you wouldn't give this person the time of day now. And the thing is, you wouldn't ask for it otherwise. You would normally be like, hey, listen, you're going to come in here and you're going to come in and you're going to roll out the red carpet for me. You're going to take me out to dinner and you're going to treat me like that's not who you are. So it's an actual perfect scenario for this person to come in and start from this standard, because you're making them, because you're like, no, it's over. It's fuck off. No, it's over. It's like, you can move mountains, you can do whatever the hell you want. I'm not going to do anything. And that this person does such big outlandish things to try to get back that you're like, oh, I'll go to that restaurant. Well, if you're going to buy me that, like maybe I can give you like 10 minutes, of my time. You know what I mean? It's like, I'll make you grovel. It's like, yeah, like I'll give you like a little bit of my time, you know. It's like a few breadcrumbs while you eat a few crackers. A few breadcrumbs fall from your crackers, you can have that. You know what I mean? The person, like, and part of it's that, you have to see that this person's like, wow, they're really sorry. They're really willing to do it. Otherwise, you're not going to do it. And the only way you would have done it, unless you got really pissed off, like, how fucking dare you? Like, no, I hate you. I'm going to set you on fire. And the spirit says that's the reason why. Because, hey, they didn't care about your needs. They didn't care about your feelings. So that wound was already there. Where really that what spirit's saying, it's like, and that was an issue. So, it's creating like a block within your inner peace, like no one should be able to disrupt that. So you might be ruminating on what they did. How dare this person? Or every time like your friend calls up and you wind up talking about it, you find that you're saying the same exact thing and replaying the scenario over. And like it's still like it's building a momentum because it's like taking on that energy, like it's coming up the energy onto its own like a monster, because it's activating an abuse wound, really, which brought up, as we just said before, abandonment, where it's like I grew up without that, and now you're going to do that, and so like it's reliving that experience is what spirit said. So you have to integrate the spiritual lesson in order to really fully transmute the negative energy. And that means like stepping into a whole new energy, do something different. If you notice, it will not say go back and be with that person, because spirit says, oh no, you're going to make it difficult for this person. Because as far as you're concerned, it's really over. However, the spirit says, I want you to go into uncharted waters. I want you to go and explore life. It's like evoke your curiosity and discover new aspects of who you are, your life, what you like, what you don't like. Again, venture in with confidence. Partially you're going to meet new people. They're going to treat you different. You're not the same person who you are. You're going to hold to a certain standard. And that's also going to scare the shit out of that person, because it's like you're cutting it off and you're really like, and understand partially if this person really is your person. After you date and you go out and venture into the unknown and you discover all that needs to be discovered, this person comes back, then you can really say, do I really want to be with you? Or no, you really fucking blew it. And after like I made you, like I didn't make you, you actually like tried to win me over. But again, I didn't stop my life. I continued to live my life, but after everything, I wound up coming back to you anyway. That can happen, spirit says. We don't know, but you will never know, and you will never be happy unless you go and really see because of what this person did. That's number one. Understand all experiences, good or bad, are what hell is helping you grow and, grow and evolve, you're evolving into the highest state of consciousness, which is unconditional love. And forgiveness obviously is there. So until you forgive, you're going to get lessons about forgiveness. And spirit says, and you don't want that. It's a time, go out again. You're going to meet people and you're going to meet your tribe. And that's really important, because part of that's going to show you support. That support doesn't just come through your relationships. It comes through like, the people that you meet, they're going to contribute to, the flavor of your life and, new opportunities and situations, because when you meet people, they're going to share. And this is how you ascend life. It's about letting go of who you were to become who you are. Spirit's saying it's like you're not that person anymore. This person came into your life and they brought up a lot of the abandonment issues which you grew up with. And again, not being able to be vulnerable. And it was a lot of the same things. But I feel like this person, they just, again, they're just not on a high vibe, but they just not, it's not about love. They're not, but if they really love you, which they claim that they do, well, Spirit says, let them put in the work. Doesn't mean that you're with them. Remember, you're not being called to be with them. You're called to live your life. Because again, that person needs to learn a lesson. And you need to see, are you really my person? I don't really know. I don't think that you are after all that. So let's see what else is out there. Let's see what else floats my boat. Let's see what other passions that I have. And at the end of the day, if this person puts in 2-3 years in, and you're still single and they're still back, you might take this person back. And don't think that if it's real, that person would do it. They would, doesn't mean that they wouldn't date. They would date, but they would always compare that person to you. And again, and that's what it took for them to actually not be a player again. And maybe for you to be like, you know what I realized is that no one's perfect. I date a lot of people, and a lot of those people did worse than this person. This person was a jerk. They were immature, but I can forgive. Because you know what? It didn't take anything from me. I didn't put up with it. I went and I dated. I lived my life. I found who I am. So it didn't do me anything. That person had to sit there all that time while I was having a good old time, finding myself, dating, doing whatever they had to against it with how they treated me. And trust me, they put in more effort. Now the person can't do enough for me. And God says, well, that's, again, you made them open up their heart. Because a person that doesn't give doesn't have an open heart. And this person, when you met them, did not have an open heart. So that's why there was resentment from you. And the Spirit says, but this is about you forgiving you, living your life, and saying, you didn't do nothing to me. At the end of the day, it's on you. You get to sit with that. And then maybe, I'll let you back. But probably not. Just it's again, but that person's going to take that risk. They're going to take that risk and say, I'm going to try and win you over. I mean, you see it in the movies. What is the movie with the guy that had the boom box above his head outside the window? They come back, it's like when people really love, they don't care. It's like, and it's almost like Spirit said that person needs to be humbled. It's like, you're not wrong for being like insulted, but it's about not giving it any more of your time. Spirit says, in times of uncertainty, ask God to guide you to the light in your being, that you're directed to doors that will open inner freedom to you, and to step forward and trust that you release your fate to God and your faith is rewarded. So again, this is about maybe being like, well, I really thought I was going to be with this person. And Spirit says, well, it's about releasing it, letting go, live your life, because it's, again, my plan's going to be better than yours. So you might be with this person. However, you will never know if you made the right choice. You will feel like you settled unless you live. So release your faith to God and just live. And so again, and then through that, you'll be able to forgive, because you'll, experience a lot of different things. Learn, because Spirit says it's all about learning to love yourself. This person came into your life, they brought up all the wounds of abandonment. You had that before. That's obviously not love. This person should have been there. They should have given. They weren't ready for this type of relationship. They're sorry now. Spirit says, doesn't matter. You go on, live your life, because you expect that this person knew how to love the way you love. They don't know how to do that. They're all blocked up. It's, again, they need to be, unblocked. And the only way that that happens is through the experiences and people that I bring into their life. And they haven't never had a connection like this before, you know? But that doesn't mean you got to be with this person. Spirit says, you know, it means that you gotta do you, because, you know, at the end of the day, this person, you know, has to win you over. That's their karma. I'm gonna leave that there. You let me know how you resonated, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye bye.